Hey, everybody, and welcome to Brain Balance Live. My name is Corey, and I am here with board certified cognitive specialist, National Autism Summit speaker, my favorite therapist, Heather Wells. How's it going, Heather?
So good to see you, Corey. We have a lot of new followers, and we should tell them that Corey is the reason. He is the technology. He and Bess and his team are the technology behind how we make these Facebook Live episodes cool with all the little bells and whistles, the things that y'all make happen. Corey and I did these first together, and then they did a baton pass to his wife, Jen. But it's
Yes.
fun to see you again.
It's good to see you too. And I really look forward to this show. My wife and I talk about it every single week. Typically, it's something that I'm doing completely and totally wrong that she learned from you. But, that's why we keep trying and we keep doing what we can. I think that, as a brain balance dad, and I think everybody knows, but just in case, my son went through the program for 9 months. My son, Roger, he is and continues to be the greatest blessing and the greatest challenge in our lives. And we choose to continue to keep working every single day, day in and day out, to be better parents for him and our other two kids, because we have 3 kids. And, we're a brain balanced family. Like I said, I'm the dad and Jen's the mom. And together we form this team that, been together for 15 years, married for 15 years now. And so, I think continuing to try is really big, especially when things get tough. And they do, Heather. They really do get tough sometimes.
Yes, they do. I was just having a flashback to the first show we did after Christmas last year. Jen was in tears saying something you talked about on the show. We used it and we slowed it right down. Wait a second. And talking about it would have been the end of the world to not have the games that went with the new system. And it wasn't, because you kind of paste it and everything. Y'all are so conscientious. I want to clone you both.
Yeah.
You tag team, you support one another. And when one of you is kind of at your limit, you tap out and the other one steps in. And that's important too. I love that.
We have to, because if you don't, then you might not understand this week's topic. And you might be able to unintentionally shame your child, right? If they make a mistake, I think, Roger forgot to put on his deodorant the other day, and boy, oh boy, is he getting to the point where he is just a smelly nightmare. So, if he misses his deodorant, you're in trouble. And, inside, I just almost snapped, because I'm like, how many times have I told you to put on your deodorant? Right. But like you're talking about those tap outs, I had to walk away because I had been with them for probably 5 hours straight. My wife was just coming home and we did that tag team. So it worked out. But, Heather, as we kind of go into this topic and help parents that are watching and watching on the replay, of course, what is unintentional shaming and how can we, I think we all have an idea of what it is, but we might not know the actual effect that it has on the child, short-term and long-term, right?
Yeah. It's really important to know that, a lot of kids or adults are struggling with self-esteem, self-worth. We've done shows on that if you want to check those out. But when we're talking about shame, that is feeling not worthy as a human being. And any of us can struggle with that from time to time. But there are degrees, for one thing. And for another, kids who have neurodevelopmental struggles are going to have possibly more difficulty, because if, for example, if I'm not in touch with my body, I don't get in touch with the inner parts of me and what does make me worthy. I think I'm a human doing, not a human being. And so it's not always, sometimes it is what we say. Sometimes it's not, but it matters how it's perceived. It's the message that's received, not what the intent was. And that's why it's unintended shaming. And Beth can pull up that first slide and show you what's really fascinating is researchers have done neuroimaging, pictures of the brain for individuals that are having physical pain, individuals that are having emotional pain, and it lights up the exact same parts of the brain. Our words can bring smiles, it can help grow the brain, or it can directly impact brain development. It actually, this stress, this unworthiness, this emotional emotional dysregulation, it shrinks the brain, the very parts of the brain that are responsible for self-regulation, the very things that might be frustrating us as parents that lead to some of these comments we wish we had worded differently. But that is what brain imaging shows. That is the body-brain connection. We talk about it all the time, but it is shown in research time and time again. Same impact as physical pain, decreases regulation and discipline parts of the brain. So
wow.
that the good news is neuroplasticity, we're doing things that are impacting brain development. We can turn it around and start growing healthy pathways. But yeah, that's to show you a physiological symptom of it right there. And then when we think about on the next slide, unintentional shaming. So how do I recognize it? Usually what it looks like is our comments are focused on a fault in the person instead of on what happened. So for example, I have a picture here of a mom frustrated about an F that this boy brought home from school. And she could, if she says something like,
can we role play? I'll hit you with one. You ready?
Go for it.
All right. Because I think a lot of parents do this. A lot of parents might not think about this, right? So like, here it is. You ready? I'm going to pull out my acting chops, Heather, because this is a special show. I'm just glad.
I know, right?
Right. So here we go. We got it. What is this? What is this? Is this an F? Why did this happen? Did you not do your homework again?
My teacher just doesn't like me. She's out to get me.
Oh, don't give me that. You absolutely chose this. You because of your bad work, you earned this F, and this is unacceptable.
I can't do it. I'm not smart enough.
Son, it's not that. It's just unacceptable. You need to do better, right? I mean, I'm just making this up. This is horrible, but
right. And now I huff off with my head down.
Yeah.
So sometimes it sounds like we're complimenting our kids in a way, because we're talking about, you're so smart. You could do this if you applied yourself. You just don't care.
Right.
Anything where, what does that say to a child? What if he really did try? We just called him lazy or apathetic when there might be something else. If he has regulation issues in the brain, neurodevelopment, sensory overload, if the emotional brain's in charge and he's not focusing, can't sit still in class, those are not choices. That is neurodevelopment. And so instead of, we never want to ascribe negative personality or character labels to our kids regardless. But instead of, that sounds like I'm complimenting. I believe in him. I'm saying he's smart. Right. You just need to apply yourself. No, you're just, what if I think I did. I applied myself the way I know how. So therefore you thought I was smart and I'm stupid. And now next time I might be likely to make up a lie. I'm going to start acting like I don't care because my parents think I'm smart. I have that to hang my hat on. They think I'm difficult, but they think I'm smart. So now I'm going to act like I don't care about school. And then if I don't do well, it's because I wasn't trying, not because I'm not smart enough.
Right. And I think that there's a difference. I always try to focus on this about like, you're a bad person versus you made a bad choice.
That's right.
And you're not a bad person. Like, this is not you. You just made a bad choice. And everybody makes bad choices sometimes. But we have to understand that we made that bad choice, and we have to figure out how we can maybe try a different choice to help that, those kind of things.
We have to separate behaviors and choices and actions from who the person is. That's why we don't ascribe negative personality or character labels. Whether it is they spilled something, you are so sloppy. Why? My dad asked me this all the time, and he was not trying to shame me. He was very loving. He was like, "What is wrong with you? You were such a klutz. You spill something at every meal." Didn't know I was legally blind, equilibrium issues. And I'm like, I don't know. I'm sorry. And I remember wondering all the time, what is wrong with me? Not why do I do that? What is wrong with me? That is the difference. And so we want to focus on what happened. Well, we got a mess here, don't we? And you need to log that away. If that's happening a lot, there's a pattern. There's a reason that's happening. A, and B, let's clean it up together. If it's homework, what do you think would help? This is hard, huh? Listen to them, whether you believe them or not. There's probably maybe some truth in what they're saying. And what do you think you could do that would help? And help them come up with solutions depending on age, developmental level. Study buddy, do they need your help? Can you get them going? You don't want to rescue them from all struggles because then they don't grow, but you do have to support them on the level they need. And that varies from child to child, what that looks like. Are we talking about a teen or a little one? But that if we do the first scenario, at least a negative self-talk, I'm dumb. I have a bad attitude. I'm the problem child. I can't do it.
Yeah.
All of that. So,
Yeah.
okay, let's move
And
on.
then,
So uh-huh.
So we focus on what happened rather than that. And then we have these words. Now we kind of reviewed a couple of these about what you should say. You kind of just reviewed that, but I mean, I'd love to talk through it again. So instead of me saying like, you're better than this, I expect more from you, things like that. I think saying like we can see on the slide here, now listen, buddy, you're a good person. I know you're having a hard time. I think that's like equal to what I was just talking about with, you're not a bad person. You just made a bad decision. Right.
Yes.
And so, I even try to relate it back to me too. Like sometimes I make bad decisions, but there's a difference between, a bad person and a bad decision in that when we have a bad decision, we can learn from it and we can move forward and we can, try to, I don't know what you say, Heather. Like, what do you say? Try to make sure it never happens again. Like, what do we say?
Well, we don't want to say that. We're looking for progress, not perfection. Mm-hmm. And so you are a good person. I know you're having a hard time. Let's figure this out together. Like, I got your back. And ask questions and listen. Some of it is not what we say. It is what we listen to. Actually ask a question and then listen. That we're going to get a lot of valuable information. Whether or not it's fully accurate, you're getting information. You're getting the child's perspective. Or if they are, I'll tell you, if kids are fibbing about things, they might have anxiety issues. They go into a fight or flight. It's called the fight, flight, freeze, or fib response. Even that tells you information. But we're going to figure this out together. We know that we're human beings, not human doings. A lot of things that we know, we have to very intentionally convey with kids with kids in general, but especially those with neurodevelopmental struggles. 98 to 99% of adolescents and adults with ADHD have rejection sensitivity dysphoria. Real or perceived rejection is debilitating. And they think, I am who people say I am, or I am what I do. I made a bad choice. I'm a bad person. I didn't do well on this test. I'm stupid. Or they become a people pleaser. Jump. How high? Perfectionistic, opting out, rage, suicidal ideation. We've got to take hold of this. There are many developmental reasons why they have this rejection sensitivity, misreading cues, etc. So many things. But we don't want to say you should be ashamed of yourself. We want to talk to them about rethinking what they did. That means if I did something wrong, I should feel bad about the entirety of who I am. And now they equate themselves with their emotions, with their behaviors. They must know that behaviors or emotions, one thing we call positive and negative emotions. All emotions are valid. I like thinking of them as comfortable and uncomfortable emotions. They all serve a purpose. They must be honored. We've never punished the emotion. We teach kids that it's what you do about it that matters.
Nice.
And so
I feel like there's a lot of that's generational. Sorry to cut you off. I feel like there's a lot of generational stuff there. Like my dad used to say, you should be ashamed of yourself, like that exact thing. And I don't know what that is, Heather. Like, I mean, we could have a whole episode or show on generation, but I feel like, they're just not as aware. I mean, even like racial sensitivities, my mom was doing a project the other day and she was talking about the difference between Roger's hair, and my son is black, and my other son's hair, who is white. And it was just like, we're going to do a science project on this. I'm like, this is not really appropriate. Right. And so, but she didn't mean anything by it. But I think that there's like a certain, I don't know what else to call it except like wokeness, right? That the generation above my generation of parents, so like current grandparents and great grandparents, are even further removed from not only ADHD, but just like an awareness of thinking about how the words they're saying might affect the child. Am I off base with that, or is that making sense?
No, not at all. And we have learned so much in the past few decades about how much words matter. The whole sticks and stones may break my bones. That is so false. Words impact brain development. They can be the difference between worthiness and shame, between being someone who goes with the peer pressure and someone who stands his ground, someone who has a sense of their belonging in the world, their purpose and not. The difference between committing suicide and not. Our words matter big time. And our parents saying those things, it was not intentional. Nobody watching the show would ever say anything that we know is shaming. And so that's why I wanted to shed a light on this, because some of these some of them are more intuitive than others, but they're all things to think about. And when you really pay attention, it starts becoming second nature. It's not like you have to calculate every word for the rest of your life. It becomes just as natural as maybe some of the go-tos that are there right now. It's just, It's like forming a new habit, really. And when you know why it matters, you don't have to remember it so much because it makes sense. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, let's go to that next slide here where we're talking about loving someone but not liking them. Is that actually something you should be saying?
And I put adults on this one. I've heard couples say this one. I love you, but I don't like you right now. And a lot of times people think what they're conveying is, I love you unconditionally. No, I don't like you right now because what you did, I did not approve of.
Yes.
So my approval of you is conditional. I won't spend a lot of time on this one, but that is not conveying unconditional love, even if that's the intent. That is saying, I don't like you because something you said, did, an emotion you're showing, whatever, is not to my approval. So therefore, I don't like you right now.
I see. All right, I got another phrase for you, right? And it's going to take us into our next slide. Why, Dad? Why? Because I said so.
Yes.
Because I said so. That's the next slide, Bess. So slide on to that next. There we go. So you teachers say it sometimes. Parents say it sometimes. I have actually uttered those words before when I have given probably 6 reasons why. And I finally just said, because I said so. So I know it's not right.
Now, and one thing I will say is that on a lot of these things, there is a time and a place. If your child is running out into the street and you tell them to hurry up and get back, they didn't see the car because I said so. You don't have time to let's sit down and say, oh, there's an 18-wheeler coming. I mean, there's a time and a place. There's always context, but in general, and I know this is frustrating. And a lot of, especially families are busy, and I keep answering the why, and I keep answering the why, and it just keeps going. But there are several things to know about this. For little ones, sometimes it's just, it's a test of patience. How much endurance do you have, Dad? How many times can I ask this? Oh, thank you so much, Brittany. Thank you. Thanks for watching. And it's just sometimes it just seems like they're just being difficult. This is a game to them. This is how little ones start understanding the world. They are actually seeking knowledge and understanding of how things work. Then they can apply it to another scenario. We want kids in school to know why they're learning what they're learning, because then it becomes relevant and engaging.
Yep.
They are connecting dots. When they're older or younger, it can seem like lack of you're questioning my authority, right? Why, Dad? Why can't I go out with my friends on Friday night? He really wants to understand. If you just say, because I said so, you might get into a power struggle. You might get some more rebellion going. I really don't know why. Let's see.
Oh, we have a question from Brittany. Okay, so misreading cues was such a gap in my personal development as an adult. I paid attention to be much more succinct. Of course, as a child, I would push friends away with my enthusiasm for whatever rant I was on at the time. Oh, okay. So I'm guessing Brittany struggles with ADHD or some type of sensory issue. Is that correct?
That is such a good, thank you for sharing that, Brittany. It is so important. On all of these, it doesn't just matter what the words are, and these aren't intended to be scripts. It's to give you a framework to work from for each situation in your child and what works for your family. But experts say as much as 93% of our message is how we say it. And I mean, I know that's a high number, but that number's been out there ever since I was in grad school, and that was decades ago, unfortunately. But it is way over half. 2/3 to 80-90%, 93% is our nonverbals. So many of our kids are missing those. In fact, there is research showing that when kids struggle with emotional regulation and body awareness, if I feel my body, I know what my body's doing. It helps me read your cues. Okay. If they're struggling with both of those things, kids will misperceive anger or disapproval or rejection in their communication partner if what that person is conveying to them is anything other than overt happiness and approval.
Yeah.
That's tough, because it is a parent's job to guide and instruct kids. You might be trying to teach and guide on a decision that was made. A teacher might be trying to give constructive feedback on a project, and you're being serious, or you might be tired or distracted. You're not showing joy, so you're rejecting me. You are indicting me as a human being. So it can be that cues go right over my head, or you barely glance your eyes, and that was you rolling your eyes at me. It could be you're being monotone, and they take it as yelling, etc. We even have auditory processing things that get in there. So how we say all these things matters just as much. Thank you so much, Brittany, for saying that.
Absolutely.
But there is a time and a place when you can only answer so many whys. There is time when there is danger, but we want to give kids the benefit of the doubt. And are they seeking understanding? Maybe your son, who is asking, why can I go out with my friends, really just wants to know why.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, you were, go ahead, keep going.
I mean, it can start framing really responsibilities and expectations. You're getting him, he fell short on this, and you're prepping him for college, and it leads to a meaningful conversation. Also, we don't always want to answer why. We want to help lead them to the answers. We want them to connect whatever dots they can, and then we fill in, prompt them, cue them, getting them going in the right direction, so they can start figuring out the answer to why questions, and then they don't have to ask 6 whys. But understand that if we always say, because I said so, and usually when people say why, it's not something that they're happy about, right? Why can't I do this? Why aren't you going to let me, blah, blah, blah. And we just say, because I said so. What we're accidentally conveying is your wants, your needs, your desires don't matter. Shove them down, repress them. So fast forward, a peer says, hey, go steal a candy bar with me. Why? Because I said so. Oh, okay. That's what we do. When somebody says so, that's what we do.
Right.
This really happens. They need to know about boundaries. There is a time I don't get my way. There is a time there are rules to follow. But when there is a why that I need to understand, let's fill it in. Let's help them figure it out. But there's also a time where somebody else told me to do something, and that is my boundary that goes against my values, my code, my morals, and I say no. It can't always be because I said so.
Yeah, absolutely.
It is so much more rare that is questioning authority than it appears on the surface. Does that ever happen? Of course.
Right.
There are so many other reasons kids ask why.
Well, let's talk about that framing of how we talk about things in our next slide, and talk about I statements, right?
One thing I want to say about the why, besides leading them to the answer or actually answering if they can't, is I can see you're really frustrated that we don't get to go look at Christmas lights tonight. I am too.
Yeah.
So you're honoring their feeling. You're saying your feeling matters. And then you start guiding on the why and helping them find, a pot of gold at the end of the rainbow. What's a bright spot or something else you get to do instead. But yes, I statements. Kids can never feel that they are responsible for our emotions. Our spouses, significant others, coworkers. So not you make me so frustrated, you make me mad. It's I feel frustrated when you talk to me in that tone of voice. Let's figure this out together. How are you feeling right now? And care about their feelings. But your feelings are yours, my feelings are mine. But now we're going to collaborate and do some conflict resolution. Corey, you and I did a show like last spring of 2020 about repairing sibling relationships when they get into fights. I just had this flash in my head. And I was talking about house rules. It is such a good idea to take some of these concepts and make it a house rule that also gives you a degree of separation from being the bad guy. Sometimes when things are happening, the house rule says it's not because I said so. And we all follow the rule. And you point out to your kids when, wow, Charlie and Sheila were kind of frustrated. I love how you said, I feel frustrated, instead of telling him, you want to point those things out. Or when you follow the rule yourself, point it out. even though you're doing it in front of them, they may not pick up on it unless you explicitly talk about it. The house rule is for everyone.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. I like the house rules. It's, we also talk about, like if someone's like screaming or yelling or something like that, I think that it's nice to say things, and correct me if I'm wrong here, but nice to say things like, we don't yell in this house to communicate. Like, it's not like it's a family rule. Like, let's talk about this together. Let's figure this out together, and let's talk about it in a calm way. If you need a second because you're really upset, take your second and come back to me. I'll still be here and we'll still have a conversation about it. But we just don't yell at each other in this family. You know what I mean?
Right. Yeah.
Is that okay?
Settling. Oh, it's fantastic. We talk all the time about settling time. You are not speaking to the logical brain. If someone is in a meltdown tantrum up to here emotionally, you are speaking to their emotional brain, and the amygdala, the guard dog of the brain, puts us into a fight or flight response, and the information is hijacked. It doesn't even make it to the prefrontal cortex of the language centers where I can even process what you're saying in that moment. And so, and understand that it's also okay for parents to take some settling time for themselves, but your settling time might take less than what that of an 8-year-old or a 12-year-old will take. Right. And so honor what each person needs. It's really important. And I also recommend talking about things in pro-social terms. And what that means is talk about what we do instead of what we don't do. So in other words, we touch gently instead of saying don't hit, don't push. Want to say we use a soft voice instead of saying don't yell, because you're still hearing the yell, push, kick, and some of that still rattles around instead of gentle touching, courteous, da-da-da. And we want to not assume they know what things mean. I have seen some rules, and even like pre-K, I conduct trainings for high schools and preschools and everywhere in between. And I've gone into pre-Ks and seen like the class rules, and there are all these 4, 5, 6 syllable words in the rule. And I'm like, unless you explain what each one of those words mean and give concrete examples, they can spout it off, but do they really know what it means? We just don't want to assume unless you know they know. We have to go through those things specifically. Okay.
Shall we jump to the next slide where the unintended shaming? This is kind of like a look inside of what the child might be thinking. Yeah. Well,
this is just sort of giving some other overviews of ways that we can unintentionally cause shame in our child, generalizing or with anyone in our lives. You always do this. You never do that. We can shame ourselves, by the way. Think about self-love here too. I'm never on time. I always jump the gun, da-da-da. No, you don't. So we can shame ourselves. So think about self-talk as well as talk with children, spouses, etc. We want to stay away from always and never. A lot of our kids already are struggling with catastrophizing. Remember last year I couldn't say that word, and now I just roll it off.
You got it now. Did you practice? Is that what you did? Did you practice?
No, for one, y'all, I used to say catastrophize, and I always added an extra syllable. I knew I was doing it, and I couldn't stop. And I'm like, Corey, help. And just one day, suddenly I could say it. And I've been waiting for like a year to show you. Sorry. Okay. But a lot of our kids already have all or nothing, black and white thinking, making a mountain out of a molehill. So there's even an extra reason to not say always and never. Don't say that to yourself either. Age or gender-based comments. Big girls aren't afraid of the dark. Boys are supposed to be tough. Anything where based on your age, also a lot of our kids, we got to think about developmental age, not chronological age, but that causes shame because if I'm scared, I'm scared. That's my emotion. Now, what can we do to take care of it? And who's to say boys are tough, girls aren't, like all that stuff. We got to let kids be true to who they are. We got to let them feel what they're feeling. And then we need to help work through those struggles. Invalidating emotions. I think this one is, I say this probably so many times a week, but it's no big deal. This seems comforting. Let me say that. A lot of times we're not trying to dismiss emotions. We are trying to provide perspective. We are trying to assure them everything's going to be okay. We need to care about how they feel right now. Right now, they don't feel okay. And so we want, why are you so upset? It's no big deal. It is to them. So I see you're upset. What can I do to help? Yeah. I'm sorry, this has been a rough day. Most of the time that one is intended to reassure or to put things in perspective, but it invalidates instead. Comparing them to others. Oh man, I was compared to my brother all the time. But we could say, why don't you have any friends? Your sister Shauna has a bunch of friends. They invite her over all the time. Maybe they have issues with social emotional intelligence, body awareness, impulse control, regulation. They don't know why. If they're not choosing that, right? Why can't you make better grades? Like, look at your brother's report card. You could make the same grade if you applied yourself. Then we think we're complimenting and trying to encourage, but it just doesn't. We want them to be the most beautiful versions of themselves, not relative to someone else. And by the way, a lot of kids who have shame also, if they don't opt out, they can have unhealthy competitive nature. Like I miss that. It's not okay if I don't win. And so we definitely don't want to. I think Brittany had a comment and I missed it.
Oh, she just said she loves the word catastrophizing.
Thank you. And I finally can say it. I'm so excited. Questioning innocuous preferences. Okay, now I want to take just a sec on this one because we want to show interest in our kids. So on this, I am not talking about, you're into anime? Tell me about that. What got you interested? That is interest. And that goes back to what Brittany was talking about and how you say things and all the nonverbals. I'm talking about, I can't believe orange is your favorite color. It's so loud and annoying. Why would you want a hamster? Right. It's that kind of thing, not showing interest. Like, why do you want to take guitar? I thought you wanted, that's really interesting. Whatever. Why did you write about that topic? That's interest. I can't believe you want to do that. Why would you want to Y'all see the difference. Yeah. And then should statements. This is just like the always and never. You're so smart. You should be making better grades. This is one that we often do to ourselves also. I should be able to get over it. Why can't I? And it's even getting me in trouble and I still can't. Should is a shaming word. I mean, there's a time and a place for that word too. It is overutilized and it often is a guilt thing that we invoke on ourselves. I should have had more patience with Roger this morning. Nope, you were feeling what you were feeling. And your emotions are valid, just like your son's. So think about, you deserve to talk to yourself kindly and not shame yourself. Also, you are modeling that for kids. They are paying attention. They learn more from what we do than from what we tell them to do, right? Yeah. But should. There's a reason it didn't happen. What is it? Let's figure it out and make it better. So these are just some overriding things to think about.
Yeah, Jen shames herself whenever she has a bad moment, and it's just like so brutal. I'm like, it's okay, So
yeah. And that leads to think about a lot of people have some perfectionistic tendencies, and I talk to these parents who are like, oh no way, the room is a disaster. They don't care about history class. Most people, at least with neurodevelopmental struggles, who have perfectionistic tendencies, will opt out of the things that they think they have no shot at. I'm not good enough to do this. I'm not smart enough to do this. But I do think I can be the best player on the team. I do think I can be the best guitar player. And so anything short of perfection kills them. I sang one note off key and I'm a singer. So they will be perfectionistic in some ways and opt out in others. And so then it masks the fact that there are perfectionistic tendencies. And perfectionism is usually rooted in anxiety, emotional regulation. Kids who struggle with emotional regulation are more easily shamed.
Yeah. Well, did we miss anything? Is there anything that we want to tap into before we say goodbye and let everybody know where they can find you?
Do you have anything else to say, Rockstar Dad?
Oh man, I think that for me, and guys, you can see the numbers on here. Of course, we've got Katy, Mansfield, South Lake, the Woodlands. The numbers are right there. And of course, don't forget to tune in with Dr. Brian Aspie. When is your show coming up? I'm not as familiar as Jen. Is it every Thursday?
It's every Thursday at 3:15. Dr. Brian and I will be back. And we're actually recording the show in advance this week, but it will play Thursday at 3:15. that it is about generosity and giving and how that impacts the brain, how to cultivate it. It's a really good topic.
And that's 3:15 Central, right?
Yes.
Awesome.
Right.
Okay. No, Heather, for me, I am just living in gratitude. And I think that's appropriate right now for Thanksgiving. I mean, I am, when you talk about the 5 love languages and how I, receive love, it's definitely not gifts. I am a words of affirmation person. So after I get the dishes done, I really like someone to tell me I did a good job. And so for me, I don't need a lot this holiday. Thanksgiving, Christmas, I just want to spend time with my family. And that's the most important thing to me. So
Yeah.
I find that just living in gratitude just keeps me a lot happier, just in general. And that and coffee, I guess, those 2 things. Oh, wow. Hey, Brittany's saying, okay, bringing several points you've made together, pointing out the negative. You always take forever to get in a car, and a child who is already struggling with self-worth is a double whammy. Makes the whole cycle of I screwed up, I'm a failure, instead of focusing on the action. Yeah, I completely agree. Yep.
Yeah, that's right, Brittany. Yeah, and we talk about this a lot, but we need to catch our kids being good. We know that intuitively. Yes, of course, we want to, but look for progress. Don't wait until they get to the ultimate of whatever it is. They're totally patient all the time. Like, note progress along the way instead of complimenting the A+, and praise their process, their perseverance, their grit, their problem solving, the new strategy they tried. Praise progress. That gives kids that way they don't feel that they're digging out of this hole that they can never get out of. And sometimes we have to wipe the slate clean, and we do not want to bring up everything they've ever done wrong when we're mad at them. You don't do that to your spouses either. It's not, no. We stay in the present. Do look for the patterns so that you see those patterns. It's very important to get to the root cause of why the struggles are happening. Behavior is communication. I am overwhelmed. I don't have the toolkit to handle these expectations, and this is how I'm showing it. What are the lagging skills that are causing that? And emotions precede behavior. So
thank you so much for tuning in, everybody. We'll see you next week right here. And your normal host, Jen, will be back. And if she's not, then I'll be here. So either way, we got you covered. Thanks for tuning in. And Heather, it's always a pleasure. Guys, we'll see you soon. Thanks for tuning in.
Thanks, Corey. Thanks, everyone.